Hi everybody, it's Kira from Toronto here. Welcome to my show. Today we're talking about business, startup business. And I'm welcoming Benjamin Nacman from the US. Hi Benny.
Hi, Kira. How are you?
I am good. And Benny is a serial entrepreneur. That's how it's called, right?
Yes.
Can you tell me what this actually means? Because to me it sounds like a soap opera or something around that. Can you explain what that means?
So I think literally it means that you've started multiple businesses and multiple companies. And with me, so I had um, my first startup when I was a kid in law school. That was in 96, 97, something like that. And it was really, it wasn't very serious. It was three friends and myself. We had a company called Testwiz. It was around education, teaching software for SATs and especially for GMAT. It wasn't a lot; it was super small, but it was my first kind of foray into the startup world, and it was a good experience. And I went on and I finished law school, and I actually practiced as an attorney for a while. But I guess when you have the bug in you,
Uh-huh.
then you have the bug in you, and you can't help it. And I was a commercial attorney, and throughout my career, it was short, but still, whenever I was talking to a company, to a client, I kept like there was like this little voice in my head that kept saying, "Why are you wasting your time on them? You could do this so much better. You need to do this business. You need to start that business. They don't know what they're doing." And obviously it wasn't true, but the voice talks to you, right? Um, so in 2007, I started my second company, and so far the biggest, which is called Credorox. It's a global acquiring bank and credit card processing, which this is how we know each other, right? Um, and by the way, I don't know if you know, but we've continued to grow like really amazing over the last few years, and especially last year in 2020. I think really it was the breakout year for us. We've crossed $8 billion in processing. Company is profitable. Serve now thousands of merchants. It was really an amazing year. So I ran Credorox. I founded it in 2007, and I ran it until 2016. In 2016, I stepped down from the day-to-day operations and bought a CEO. I'm today the chairman of the board
Mm-hmm.
of Credorox and very still involved. And then I took about a year off, and sometime
Cool.
in mid 2017, I started another company, which is called Jasby. And
Mm-hmm.
Jasby is still in fintech, it's still in financial technology. And we are a mobile payments app and card for teenagers, for kids and teens and their families. So we connect three generations. We connect kids and teenagers, and we connect their parents and also the grandparents. And the idea is that the adults give money to the kids in a digital form, and the kids can do three things and something much bigger that kind of hovers around everything. So what the kids can do is they can save money, they can do good. We work with the
Mm-hmm.
25, I think, nationwide charities. This is US play. Nationwide charities, from American Cancer Society to Girls Who Code to the Conservation Fund, so everybody can find what they like. And the third thing that they can do is they can spend. How
Mm-hmm.
they can spend. So we issue a debit card to the kids. It's in cooperation with MasterCard, and this debit card is acceptable anywhere that MasterCard is accepted, which is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And also, we have a shop, an online and in-app shop, shop.jasby.com. And this is curated for kids. So we sell video games and some fashion and some accessories for tech and stuff like that. So you can buy at the shop as well. But above it all with Jasby, there is this notion of financial literacy, which is a huge problem in the US. Well, I'm sure in Canada as well. It's all in the
Same.
Western
Mm-hmm.
hemisphere. Nobody talks to kids about money. Nobody, they don't, people don't talk about money at home, and they also don't talk about money in school. It's like a taboo. And then we have a generation after generation. This has been going on for a while now. We have generation after generation of kids who go into adulthood and go into college and go into being a young adult, and they don't know the first thing about money, what's interest, what's APR, how are they calculated, like nothing. So to just be part of what we do is that we bring the gospel of financial literacy, and we give you some financial literacy score, and we tell you some very basic and simple things that you can do with us or not with us, it doesn't matter, to make your kids a little bit more financial literate.
Well, I love that, because that's not just a startup, that's a startup with the purpose. So you always have the vision. And you're right about the kids. Only here in Canada, I myself am really getting into financial issues, because you have to know that stuff. And we had that conversation yesterday when my daughter wants to buy some Roblox online for the game. And my husband was, the money that I'm giving you is not for that. So that's how education in our house goes. You told me about the bug that's in your head and who is pushing you towards doing things differently. Can you tell me, is it this spirit, entrepreneurial spirit, that everybody is talking about? Are you born with that? Or do you look around and see what people can do and you're like, I can do that too?
I'm not sure that there is a difference. I think the answer is yes to both. I think that's so. I don't know. There is look, if I'm honest, and I think today it's easier to be honest because I'm a little bit older and maybe a little bit more. You know, when you're young, you always think that you know better than everybody else, and it takes time and age to understand that it's probably not true. And,
unless your mother tells you that.
Yes, but then you don't deliver. So, you know, I think with me, and I think there's something that when I talk to other people who started companies, that they oftentimes, especially in tech, but not only, that they tell me that they feel the same. So there's like this paradox. I know that it's true that I don't know better than other people. So the adult, mature part of me knows intellectually that I don't know better than other people. But there is a big part of me that even if I know it in my head, I still believe that I do know better.
Good.
Right? And those two parts, or most of the time, they collide. But I think when you're younger, it's very obvious who's winning. And as you're growing older, you're getting more into maybe a 50-50, or at least you say, okay, maybe I don't know better, so I'm going to listen. But there is a part of it, a very strong part that I can do better. And also there's this huge optimism that it's going to be okay. It's going to work out. Don't worry about it. We're going to fix it. So even when there is a problem, or there is an obstacle, which happens all the time, is this very strong belief that you're going to do okay regardless, right?
That's great.
Yeah. So I think, and I used to joke with my wife, you know, after Credoax, when I you know, I was always a board member. Now I'm the chairman, so I'm still am involved, but it's obviously not a full time. So for about a year and a half, I had a very good time. You know, I was still
I'm sure
a little bit with Credoax, and I was doing some consulting projects here in New England with so 2 or 3 local banks in Massachusetts, in Rhode Island, and also with the local university here, talking to them about starting a fintech center. So like I was busy, and it was nice. And I think after at the beginning of 2016, I told my wife, I'm not going to do another startup. Like I had 2, it's enough, it's good, I'm good. Exactly. And by 2017, so we always joked, it's like having kids. With time, you forget how difficult having a baby is. And you only remember the good things. Oh, they're so cute, blah, 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 right? And then it's easy. And then after a while, you talk yourself into, okay, we have to have another one. So I think it's the same with companies. By mid 2017, I was completely, oh, no. And now it's going to be so much easier because I have so much experience. It's going to be my 3rd time. I'm not going to make the same mistakes that I did before, which is, by the way, it's true. You just make other mistakes. right?
You actually answered my next question. Is it becoming
Yeah, of course.
easier with every time?
No, it's not easy. I think, and one of the things that I thought is because so between the first and the second, it was in completely different area of the market. One is education, one is financial technology. So there's nothing in common. The last two, right, Gradovax and Jasby are both fintech companies. So I thought, okay, like this is something I really, really know. But it's so again, it's true to a certain degree because it is similar and there are a lot of similarities. But with fintech, and Kira, you'll understand this. So Credorax is an acquiring play on the credit card industry, and Jasby is an issuing. So it's very similar, but it's the other side of the coin,
Yeah.
if you will. It's the
Yeah.
same coin, but it's completely different. So it's different technology. And also in the past, what I did was mainly B2B, and Jasby has a large part of B2C into this. So again, this is new. So there is always, but I think that's fine. When you start a new business, obviously you're going to have challenges. It's how it is. It's part of the game.
Yeah, but you are very positive. Can you walk me through the financial side of the things? Because I think many people wanted to start their own business, big or small, throughout COVID, and financial is what holds a lot of people back. How do you fund those business ideas? Because now you've done that not once.
That's a great question. So I think it's like this. It really depends on a few things. I would say one, on your financial situation yourself, right? How much free cash do you have? And it can be from, I don't have the luxury of being even 1 month without a paycheck, to a position where I say, hey, I'm okay if 6 months I don't get paid and I can do my own thing, to maybe I have some money that I can even fund a couple of months of my own business. The second part of it is, what is the business? So it's one thing to start a business that you can almost immediately have a product or a service to sell. So if I needed to start a consulting company, I'm just kind of making this up. I can sell my services almost immediately. So maybe it takes me a month or two to find clients, but I know what the service is and it's available immediately. And there's not a lot of extra funding that needs to go into this. If I need to start a shop and I need inventory, that's a different place. And if I need to start a high-tech company and I need to develop technology, then that's a third case, right? So all of those things are variants. In my case, because my companies were always around technology, in not easy, I'm not trying to say this is rocket science and it's like unheard of technology, because it's not. But what I mean is that you need, in fintech especially, you need a technology platform, and also you need a regulatory infrastructure. So we touch money. It's not like I can just decide tomorrow morning that I'm opening a fintech company that moves money from one place to the other. It's not okay, right? You need to get licenses to do all of this. And
You'd better have
technology.
them. Yeah.
Exactly. So because of this preconditions of our industry, or my industry, then I always needed to raise money. And those amounts of money are normally not a few $1,000s. There are multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars that you need just to get started. And you need a few employees, and again, so you need some sort of an initial investment to get this thing rolling. So what I always did is went out and just raised money. But again, that doesn't apply to all of this. So if your business that you're thinking about is more products or services that you can provide and that you have direct ownership of, then maybe getting a loan, is a better idea. Or it really depends on the personal situation, and again, what the business idea is.
Yeah, that's a great distinction. So when that's at your service and you control it, your cash flow probably is better. But if you need to invest first before you sell, then you go and raise money. And can you explain to me, because a lot of folks that are listening to us are working for technological startups in the US, and there are those rounds of investment, from seed investment to whatever series. Can you briefly explain how that happens and what each round is intended for, if there is such a definition?
Yes. So think about this as a relay race, right? The race that you give the baton to another player, right? So the VC world and industry, the way it works, and again, there can be some crossing between stages. It's not, there is no rule book, right? It's not a law or regulation. It's not written down. But in general, I would say that it starts from pre-seed to seed. Pre-seed is really the very, very beginning. In pre-seed, normally you would have a PowerPoint presentation and some basic model in an Excel. And then in a pre-seed, there are some funds that would do this, but also um, angel investors. And angel investors are, and again, those amounts of money are relatively low. They can be from tens of thousands of dollars to a few hundreds of thousands of dollars, but mostly not millions. Seed is you made some improvement. So maybe you don't only have a PowerPoint, maybe you have one employee, maybe you have a few screenshots, maybe you have some proof of concept, but very, very basic. And then you raise 1 million or 2 or 3, or again, depends on your business, right? And again, there are VCs that this is what they do. So they concentrate on their expertise at the seed stage.
So they qualify you and they check what you do and you need to convince them, and then they decide how much money they are willing to give you and in which conditions.
Yes. And I would tell you that mostly in seed, the criteria would be the market. Like, is there a market? Is there not a market? Is there a problem that you're fixing? Is there not a problem that you're fixing? The validity of the model. So you don't have any proof, but does the model that you're offering, does it even make sense?
Yeah.
Like, how would you even make money? You need, assuming everything that you're saying is good, is true, and it would work. Okay, so where's the revenue from, right? And the third is you, right? Is the team that comes to them and say, okay, I'm going to execute. So if the VC believes that there is no market or there is no market problem, then it doesn't matter. If they believe there is a market and they think that your model makes sense, they can say, okay, yeah, I see how people pay from that and how the revenue streams are going to be, and that makes sense. Then it's left to the management team, or it's not even a management at that point, it's the team, the founding team. So do they believe that you can actually execute on your plan, right?
Wow,
so you can
I didn't know that. So they evaluate you as a person, as an executive, whether you are capable.
Completely.
Oh, wow.
Because when you come to them, to think about this, in the seed stage, you have nothing. You have an idea with some, again, some PowerPoint, some model, maybe some very, very basic proof of concept, but very basic. And now there's going to be a lot of execution challenge. Can you build it? Again, I'm constantly going back to technology. I'm sorry, that's like what's right. So can you build it? Can you get the license? Can you build it in a way that anybody is going to want to use it? There is a lot of execution risk there because, like, who knows? Maybe it won't work, right? So there is no way to judge it other than to look at you and say, do we trust you? Did you do anything like this before? So it's easier to do it second time than first time.
Yeah.
Right? Because then you can tell them, okay, I've already done. So, okay, first time, but it's all doable. Like most founders and startup are first timers. That's the majority. So that's what's happening at seed. And then you take this money and you start running with it and you start creating value. So you build your product, maybe you get a client, and then you start going to rounds that are normally alphabetical, A, B, C.
Yeah.
Right? So what is round A? Round A normally means the product is up and running. There is no more. There is no more risk. Is there a product? Can he build it? Can he not? Product exists. Maybe you continue an improvement. Maybe you add features, but there is something there. It's not nothing. And normally there is also a good proof that the model works. So maybe you don't have, I don't know, your model calls for you having 500,000 users and you only have 10,000, but those 10,000 behave the way that you want the million to behave.
So you have to have some customers who are representatives of your target market.
These are very broad. It's painted with a very broad brush, right? There's no. the more, I will tell you something like this, the more sophisticated, proprietary, groundbreaking the technology is, the less the rest is needed, right?
Gotcha. Makes
And
sense.
sometimes you even manage to raise tons of money or even sell the company without actually having any sales. If something, I think a year ago, Intel bought an Israeli startup that was doing some crazy artificial intelligence chip before they sold one chip to anybody, but they wanted the technology. So sometimes crazy things happen, but like in the normal course of business, if we are not Facebook on the one side or some crazy AI people at the other side, you need to have something that proves that your model is real.
Yeah,
And then
gotcha.
from there you start going to the rounds if you need the money, based on how advanced you are, right? So Series A, you have some proof of model. Series B, you're established, and then the higher you are, the more it's growth. The more is how you're going to use this money and go from 100,000 users to 500,000 or to 1,000,000 or to
Gotcha.
yeah.
That's
And
so insightful.
the
That's awesome.
idea behind all of this, by the way, is that every time you raise money at a higher valuation. So when you raise money the first time, your company is going to be worth not much, but rightly so, because you don't have money. And then you're going to use the money to increase the value of the company so that next time you raise money, the value of the company is much higher, and then everybody is happy. You are happy, and the first investors are happy because their holdings is worth more.
Yeah, and is there then, connected to your answer, a rule of thumb? How do you raise that evaluation of the company? Do you invest in product, in people? Obviously, that depends on the industry and the product itself, but is there any rule of thumb?
Both, I think. Again, it really depends on what exactly that you're doing. But I would say, first thing that when you get the seed money, at least in my mind, is to get a good team. And a good team is going to be crucial for everything that you do. And I think, by the way, that this is the most difficult, profound, challenging challenge that you would face. And also something that most people completely disregard, and they like, and that's like, it's so easy to fail. In getting good people as early as you can, and don't be cheap about this. Get the best that you can.
So that what? Because I'm asking because this is what I expected you would answer, and because we had that conversation with a few people about why people are key, why professionals are making up your business and help it succeed. Because, you know, some people say it's obvious you need good people, but it's hard to find. I remember that. So with the team, why is that so important? And then how do founders hire? Do they start from COO because they need to figure it out, or do they start from sales, marketing? How does that work?
Okay, so I think there are a few questions there. I'd say the beginning is that it's the most important decision that you're going to make. It's not one decision, it's a series of decisions, probably in the execution stage. So there's the model and all of those things that are obviously business decisions. But in the execution, the most important set of decisions are about the people. Because you can't do everything yourself, obviously. And you want the best people around you. Now, how do you decide who to hire first? So again, it changes from industry to industry, but I would tell you that what I normally do, and I hope and think that it's smart, is that you hire the best people you can at those things that you don't know, right? So for example, I'm an attorney by profession. I've been doing fintech for a long time. So I have a good understanding on how the ecosystem works, and I can say the buzzwords about how the technology works, but I'm not an engineer. I've never written a line of code in my life. I don't understand it. So what I need is a very strong CTO. I need somebody that would complement me on the things that I don't know, right? So I think that's what you do. You do a CTO if you are a direct-to-consumer business, then you bring a strong marketing person, unless you are great in marketing. And then you bring, so whatever it is that you don't know about, these are the areas that you need to bring people that would augment, that would balance you, right? So for example, when I started Jasby, what I brought is a technology person and a marketing person, because anything that has to do with payments in the industry and banking and license, and I'm good, like I know this very well, and I can, I can guide, so I feel very good about this. But I know that technology and marketing are things that I don't have the expertise, so this is what you need to bring. So it's always what you're not good at.
That's the perfect answer. That's amazing. And then because the audience is marketing people, what have you learned is the most important thing marketing can do for a startup, for a small company?
So again, I think marketing is in today's world is key. It maybe is as important, maybe even more important than the technology. But I think again, there is different marketing if your service or product is aimed at B2B or is it aimed at B2C. So that's different kind of marketing. You remember that at the beginning of CredoX, because we were B2B, we really didn't do a lot of marketing. It was very, very modest. In Jasby, because we're B2C, we do a lot more. But positioning, and one of the things with marketing, if you have a good marketing team, is that it also forces you to pinpoint and define exactly what it is that you're doing and what it is that you are selling, because they need to sell it, so they'll come and ask you, right? And then it's surprising how sometimes those questions are difficult, and the really good ones, right? Like, okay, so your service is, I don't know, you're selling cars, right? And your car is a Toyota, and I don't know, there's a new brand, Benny car, but so everybody has a Toyota or a Hyundai or a Honda or a Kia. Okay, so what's the difference? So you need to have an answer, right? You can't be, well, it's better. Better how? Better what?
Or not necessarily better, maybe different, which plays a role
Cheaper,
later.
nicer,
Yeah.
less. It doesn't matter, but it forces you to really sit down and say, okay, and this is these exercises. Even again, I feel like I'm thinking that I'm doing this for so many years, and still sometimes, like I couldn't answer. I said, okay, let me think about it. Like I don't know.
Yeah, and it's interesting that different executives will give you different answers, and then you'll start digging why and get into one aligned standpoint. And then last question about marketing. My thinking is that marketers are forced to talk to everybody in the company to understand the business, to understand the market, to pull from others' expertise. So I personally see marketing people as like superheroes, small superheroes inside the company who can connect the dots between other people. Do you see, or have you seen marketing playing that role, like puzzle connector or question asker, so that some stuff pops up and changes how the company thinks, maybe?
Yes. So yes, for sure. You're a good marketer, so you paint a very dramatic picture. So, but yes, I don't know if in that. So I think they need to understand exactly what the product does, in what it is intended to do, and then what are the pain points, why and how do you convince people to use it, right? So what problem am I solving, or what is the appeal that I'm giving to you? There's also a part of what a good marketing person needs to understand, and that's what's the pain point with your competitor, especially if they're larger and bigger than you. So what do people hate about their product? And there is always something, right? No product is perfect. And then you go and attack. So why am I better? Because I don't charge you this, right? And sometimes that's all you need, right?
Yeah, and sometimes you don't really need a lot of money to framework that. You just need to be able to ask smart questions and know who can answer those, because without knowing the organization, that won't really work. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you go talk to the technology people, you go talk to the finance people, you go talk to the business, and you figure it out.
Yeah, so I really wish that marketing people would go and talk to other people. I think this is what I evangelize and other people evangelize as well. To wrap up, what do you think the 2021 will bring the entrepreneurial world? Will there be more entrepreneurs, people branching out, doing their own stuff? What is this year bringing to us?
Wow. I don't know. I don't know if this year is going to be very different. You mean because COVID?
Because people had the time to think what they want to do. Or maybe investors changed the way they evaluate businesses. Maybe there are smaller micro businesses that are rising up. No.
I honestly, I don't know. So I don't think that they've changed the way they evaluate business. So the core, everything that we spoke about is still applies. Again, if your new business plan is to open a concert hall, I'm sure you're going to be asked, will people come to a concert hall? And you'll need to have an answer. Maybe yes, maybe no. I don't know what the answer. I'm just saying, if it's something directly affected by COVID, then you just need to factor it in. Will more people want to start their own businesses? That's a great question. I don't know the answer to. I don't know.
See.
We'll see. I think what we've seen in the past is that, but that you can only know this a decade later, right? So what we've seen in the past is that times of uncertainty and of crisis. So obviously we didn't have any health crisis in the last 100 years or so, but when it was an economic crisis, when there was the meltdown or the 2008 or the crashes in the 70s or whatever. So those times were oftentimes when some of the biggest companies and businesses would get started, from UPS to Microsoft, right? But it's like, you don't know. So I assume it's going to be probably the same, but we'll know 10 years from now. We'll say, oh, in 2020 and 2021, this is when this company started.
Yeah, I hope our names will be written there in golden letters. Yours for sure, and kids will be well educated about financial literacy. Thank you so much for this conversation, Benny.
Thank you. It was great seeing you again.
Yeah, bye.